good evening to you. We were just listening to a little bit of Parsifal, and I still don't know who is performing this Parsifal that I got. It's from something called Musopen. Muse, it's like free music, public domain music thing where you can get, well, music that's too old to be subject to copyright. And that's where I get like my Caruso tracks, like all my background music that gives us tons of trouble sometimes, and then other times is relatively inoffensive. Yeah. So speaking of things like that, let me get let me. I'm gonna need a glass of water for this one, so I'll be right back. We're gonna get this stream started. As you can see, I've got this Nightbot. If you're in the showing up in the live chat. So Nightbot is this feature that I wound up finding to help me manage the chat, because this is going to be we're going to be expanding this. Well, I am going to be expanding this channel, this YouTube live stream habit into a Discord server. So on the Discord server and the YouTube channel are going to be kind of coordinating or coordinated, and a lot of that's going to be automatic. And we just hit 2003 subscribers, so I don't know. Yeah, thanks guys for that. And if you're not a subscriber, then feel free to smash, you're supposed to say smash the like button, subscribe, and I guess also especially tell people about this show, that there's this live show that we're watching a bunch of videos together and arguing about what's on there and doing some demonstrations of singing and anything we can think of that has to do with singing. I guess there's lots of shows about like how to sing. I guess this is how to be or people saying what's the right way to sing and the wrong way to sing. We're kind of looking at how to be the person who's trying to figure that out. What's a good way to be a student of singing, I guess. With that in mind, we have to filter out some bullshit. So I'm going to go get a glass of water because this is going to be a fun one. And we're going to be talking about something that's useful sometimes, inoffensive other times, and maybe other times is neither of those. But just hang tight. I'm going to give you a little bit more background music. Gonna go get my glass of water and we'll get started. And we're back. And yeah, I got my glass of water. The thing I love about the country where I live is like the water here is just great. It just comes. This is how it comes out of the tap. If you want, there's the water that we used to have when I was living in North America, the USA and Canada. But that's the clear water, and that you have to get in the bottles here. This is what comes out of the tap. That's just great, before and after singing, especially. Okay, so as I was saying, in our quest to find out some things about singing and how to be a good student of singing, I think one of the most important things to be aware of, to take a peek at, I guess, to understand and interact with, is the wide world of bullshit. Oh, oh my. Sorry,
Welcome
Nikolai.
to today's video, the vocal technique I want to share with you.
So we've got this bullshit inspector feature, and I'm afraid that's what we're gonna have to do with yet another one of Gemma's videos.
Today, turned my world upside down in the best possible.
So let's just rewind a bit here.
Welcome to today's video, the vocal technique I want to share with you today turned my world upside down in the best possible way. Before I say another word, we've got to give credit where credit is due.
I mean, it's good to turn worlds upside down.
Exercise and technique and approach and science I'm going to share with you today comes from researchers including the speech pathologist Kerry Obert and the voice educator.
We're going to get a vocal tip from a speech pathologist. Okay, I mean...
and researcher Chadley Valentine. Amazing.
So I guess, I mean, this could be a good thing. We could, like, especially if she's going to be citing sources, that's friggin' great. So I'm excited to see this, that she's citing sources, hopefully, and not just dropping names, not just dropping names in this video to try to make what she's seeing seem like it has more weight, without actually, connecting the two together. Why is it that what is it that these people are saying that supports what you're saying? How does that work, etc. Oh geez. And it does seem like my one moment. Seems like my seems like I might have trouble with my connection to my bullshit counter. Now this is terrible. I'm gonna try to fix this, guys. I'll be back. Yes, I just do not know. I think I see what has happened here. See what has happened. Let's see. And we're on. Okay. So let's reset the count here. Go on forward.
Please go support them and check them out.
Okay.
So let's get into it. I think the best place to start is with an audio reference or with some kind of a sonic reference. I'm going to share with you some singers using it, but before we even get there, let's find the level 10 version of this sound. So I want you to make an or sound for me.
Or.
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 Now
Or.
see if you can make that or with the tongue retracted, pulled back as much as possible.
It looks like we're gonna be learning about the knurdle. Oh my god! All right. Oh, sorry. That was scary. I was running behind trying to get this live stream together today. And I had cuz I have some last minute inspiration throughout all the listening examples I was going to do and the whole topic I was going to do, and now we're doing a different one. So, as Gemma kind of let us know, we're going to be looking at the knurdle. And just a preview, that means we're going to have to look at some famous singers that use this technique that she's going to be telling us about. Some famous classical singers, and some of you are going to be maybe pissed off that I'm saying that favorite singer of yours uses this. I don't know. Is it maybe can we just not call it a knurdle then? Let's call it I don't know. Knedleek. Let's call this knedleek. And we can say that. Whoops. What's up with my chat there? Oh, one moment again, guys. Let me sort this. In case the YouTube guys want to come on and talk about knurdle. But anyway, our big names, just to, if you want to, a little tease. You saw the first one before we got going. Nikolai Gedda is going to be using this technique. We're gonna talk about Marilyn Horne, maybe. We're gonna talk about Peter Pears, maybe, and maybe Renee Fleming's gonna come up, and we're gonna talk about so is this always a bad thing? Knurdling, knedleek, sorry, and what does it do for people? What is it? What's it all about? What can we associate it with? What? So forget about do you like this technique or not like this technique? What do you see this technique also go with? Any particular types of singing? So let's let Gemma, I guess, try to define this a little bit. It's always kind of like with Gemma, it's like playing this telephone game. Someone was mentioning that vocal terminology is a lot like the telephone game. But I think that's a lot because of the way people who use vocal terminology are either not trying hard or deliberately trying hard to make other people stupid. I don't know. Gemma seems kind of particularly egregious. So let's let her take us through this, and we'll give her the regular bullshit inspector treatment.
That's it. say even level 12. That's an extreme.
Okay.
That's not going to be helpful. That's too retracted. That's actually going to have negative consequences, right? That's what people might describe as, oh my God, it's tongue tension. Don't worry.
I guess so. So the sound she's talking about so far that she's mentioning is er, er, er. And I mean, if I get that wrong, you tell me. That's the sound. But if you tell me you're wrong, then I'll just tell you that you're wrong. And let me just quickly fix something with the YouTube side of the chat here. No, I don't know why that's not working so well. Aha. Well, it looks like the YouTube stream got ended. I see. And it got remade into another stream. So just 1 second, guys. I'm gonna restart the stream over on the YouTube side. The best part about like no one being on really. Okay. Get some background music at least while I get this up.
It's going to
Fortunately, I can't just
be okay.
let Gemma play because fair use thing, you know.
So now let's just try chill that back a little.
So 1 second. I'm just gonna save that as is. Forget about the thumbnail. Pop out this new chat. Get this up over here, guys. All right. I think we're now live over on This is Opera as well. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah, sorry about that. This is Opera, but welcome. So, and we've got both channels now. Then I made this stream public, so you should be able to, on the This is Opera side, if you're over there, I think you'll even be able to go back to the beginning if you need to. So, you know, oof. Yeah, without further ado. Oh. Okay, yeah, so we're back, and I can indeed, you know, if if you're interested in learning how to use the Knurdle, I know a thing or two about it, actually. I'm not a Knurtle expert. I don't use it in my opera singing, but I do know a thing or two about Knurtle. So let's go, because this is my wheelhouse. So let's get this show on the road here.
And I'm going to get you to do a funny impression of Kermit the Frog.
Is the most famous frog in the world.
So you're going to say, Kermit the Frog.
Okay, that's why this is my wheelhouse. I'm just so glad that she mentioned Kermit the Frog, because Kermit the Frog happens to be one of my stronger impersonations that I can do. Now, I think there's a big difference actually between, well, not a big difference. Well, it's a pretty big difference, but also a subtle difference between what Kermit the Frog is doing and what Gemma is doing here. And probably if you look into Carrie Obert's materials, you'll find she's also kind of not too skilled at using her Knurtle. And actually, you'll find that, I think, about speech pathologists in general, that they're not necessarily the people you're gonna go to for vocal advice. They're speech pathologists. They're supposed to be applying like whatever studies say is gonna maybe probably work. I mean, yeah. But in any case, the big difference, I think, what she's doing is actually, close. It's actually closer to Fozzie Bear. Whereas Kermit the Frog, you're gonna have to protract the neck, and although I'm not quite able to at this time quite point out what the difference is, I can assure you there is a difference, and that's how I make these two different sounds. Or no, that's not what she did, but anyway. Anyway.
Kermit the Frog. So you have the
That's Kermit the Frog. Kermit the Frog. Kermit the Frog. That's not Kermit the Frog. Kermit the Frog doesn't work like this. That's not Kermit the Frog. This is Kermit the Frog. It's not the same.
Sound.
But still, both based on. Okay, both of these are based on the same thing, though. This Knurtle.
A silly impression, exaggerating the Shakira tone, like.
And this is really important.
Got that?
So
okay,
Shakira, the famous pop star, is like as prototypical. No, what's the word? Iconic? No, iconics is not a great word to use. I don't know what the word, like a very, very, very typical example of someone who is using this Knurtle technique that we're going to be looking at, and is doing so extremely well, like in a way that is like no one's going to be thinking to themselves, that's kind of weird. Well, they might if they're really, I know, Knurtle sensitive. But it's all really well blended together, and I guess it shows one of these important general rules of singing, which is that often a sound that you might think of as having one particular, shall we say, affect, like being nasty or ugly, depending on how you're putting it together with other sounds and stuff, it stops being that. It can stop being that or having that meaning at all in that singing. So nasty can suddenly become beautiful. I am standing on the Jordan. These kinds of sounds. can actually wind up really seeming beautiful to us, depending on maybe if they're tamed or if they're combined with other sounds or if you just really stick to them and start to establish that, oh, all my vowels are like this. This is just how I sing, kind of thing. Anyway, yeah, there's all kinds of ways to assemble different sounds into what it is that you want to do. And some of them might not be intuitive or apparent. Yeah. So but anyway, let's
listen to this quality chilled back and being used in singing.
I'm on tonight, my hips don't lie, and I'm starting to feel it's right.
So can you hear it?
So it's more, she doesn't pick the best examples, but she really doesn't pick the best examples, but that's it. So, and why this stream is titled the way it is, by the way, is going to be important because knödel is one of the ways, not necessarily the way I recommend, but using a knödel is one of the ways that people get one of the non-fungible, I guess, effects that we're talking about. So knödel is a non-fungible vocal gesture. And I'm going to get to what that means later.
I'm on tonight, my hips don't lie, and I'm starting to feel it's right. All the attraction.
That really gives Shakira her signature tone quality, isn't it? Okay, so that's...
I mean, so true. That's just the truth. That this knödel thing is what gives her her tone quality, her signature tone quality. Some people might be a little bit surprised by it or might not have realized. If you're on This Is Opera or Mr. Opera, you're probably not going to be upset that we're saying Shakira does this, but maybe you'll be upset at some of the later examples that'll be on this show.
The next fairly extreme use of it. Let's find another use case. Okay, so now we're going to listen to this clip of Christina Aguilera, and I want you to listen out for the word look.
Look inside yourself.
Can you hear the tongue placement for that?
Look inside yourself.
Okay, right, we're getting accustomed to hearing it now.
Okay, so that's I'll buy it, and it's just on that one note, and I buy it. That's what that was.
Have a male example. So we're going to listen to how he sings Wonder Where You Are. He really is allowing or to be in the ah sound.
'Cause I wonder where you are.
Ah, instead of ah.
What?
Ah.
And I wonder what you do.
And I wonder what you do.
No. Did you? Okay, if you're in the chat, and you're listening, did you hear what she said? That we heard? I didn't hear what she said that I heard. I heard something else.
Allowing or to be in the ah sound.
'Cause I wonder where you are.
I hear kind of a nasal sound with a higher soft palate. Cause I wonder where you are. I don't know. I'm not super skilled at this, but it's not or anything like that. It's not oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling. Or anything actually knödel based. something like that.
Last sound.
'Cause I wonder where you are.
Ah.
'Cause I wonder where you are. 'Cause I wonder where you are. Just a little bit of twang. Nasal. There's nasality. It's got nothing to do with what she's talking about. I don't know. What the hell?
Instead of ah.
And I wonder what you do.
And I wonder what you do.
So I guess we're conflating all, like, anytime you're retracting the tongue. No, it's not anytime you're retracting the tongue. It's like I guess it seems like sometimes that we're retracting the tongue to some places. I'm not sure which parts of the tongue are being retracted to what. From this, I mean, I can tell. We're gonna look at the reason for retracting anything anywhere back there, quote unquote. Well, there's gonna be two different reasons you might be retracting, quote unquote, which would mean taking some part of your tongue and putting it more in a posterior place. That could involve doing something with area of interest number 1, in the sense that you might just be lowering your larynx. So someone looking with a laryngoscope or someone looking with a camera would see your tongue going down. And if you were like moving your head back at the same time, your tongue retracted. And that's one change you can make. You can make a change to area of interest number 3, which is, well, we'll take a look at where these areas of interest are, because I want to make sure nobody gets left behind on these concepts. Area of interest number 3 essentially is the top of your larynx. Now you could retract your tongue towards there, and that's one thing. And this area of interest, since it takes up the whole first half of your vocal tract, there's a lot of wiggle room for saying that we're retracting our tongue towards this thing. It covers a lot of ground, so it's an extremely general thing now to say that we're retracting our tongue towards area of interest number 3. And if we're doing it as a kind of non-fungible vocal gesture, then we'll see that it's general, but at the same time has a quality to it. So that if you're going to be retracting your tongue really close to the beginning of area of interest number 3, that's different from what we're seeing here, which I think is retracting the tongue into area of interest number 3, but just not very deep into it. And then there's area of interest number 4, which is also in the pharynx, if you will, depending on who's looking and how long their vocal tract is right now. And retracting your tongue into this area is going to have an effect on the second formant. And obviously, since area of interest number 4 is overlapping with number 3, when you're saying the one, you're partially saying the other. So let me just get a let me just get a whiteboard up here. Make things easier. You're gonna get pink trombone up. And I'm gonna map out again for anyone who's new where these areas of interest are. And if you want something more in depth, feel free to go to newschoolsinger.com. No, wait. If you want something more in depth, actually, just go to my tutorials on visualizing vocal acoustics here on YouTube. That's probably the best way to go. Although the newschoolsinger.com hopefully will be redirecting you to the same place. So let me go real quick into my browser here so I can interact with Pink Trombone. This is an app, if you're not familiar with it, that you can use called Pink Trombone, and go ahead and watch those videos I was telling you about. You probably want to see from this view here. And the first one, I think, will tell you all about Pink Trombone. So area of interest number 1, as I was already insinuating, if not downright just stating explicitly, is a way of saying the whole length of the vocal tract. And you're probably used to hearing this as people saying raising and lowering the larynx. But in this case, we really, really need to know how long is the vocal tract right now. So area of interest number 1. Oh. Second, guys, I'm trying to get my whiteboard working here. There we go. So area of interest number 1, since it really, really, really is the whole length of the vocal tract, and it really needs to be, make myself a bit bigger here. Should I just trust that this is bigger? Should I check on my monitor? I'm gonna check on my monitor. I don't trust it. Yeah. So you guys can see me. I'll just trust that you guys can see me, so I can't really see myself. If you mean the beginning of the vocal tract, so let's say my larynx is low. Let's say my larynx is like all the way down here. And now you want to measure all the way to the end. Let's say my lips are like this. Well, it should be obvious to you now that this is longer than this, right? And that does really specific things to my formants. And let's see. Now I can hear myself, so I'll hear what's going on. But if I use this filter on my voice, well, you can see it's doing weird things to the whole frame. This is literally doing the same effect as when I lengthen my vocal tract with my lips, by lowering my larynx, by protracting my neck. Doesn't matter how I do it, as long as I'm lengthening my vocal tract, it's having this effect to the harmonics that would be resonated by a tube of this length. Turn that off.
Now, if I make this tube shorter, it's gonna raise all those formants, and it's gonna change the sound like this.
Longer area of interest number 1.
shorter area of interest number
1. Okay. But there are subtle ways in which you might be changing this distance, which is the shortest path from your larynx to get out of your vocal tract, so out of your mouth. And you might not realize that this is changing area of interest number 1 because we don't talk about it that way. So if I'm going from here to here, I've shortened my vocal tract. But also, if I change nothing about this, and I'm just moving my head around like this, or even rotating my head, or even opening my mouth, and especially getting extreme mouth openings, I'm shortening my vocal tract. All of the different things that I do change the length of it. I might even change the length of it if I'm just moving the tip of my tongue. Could wind up making subtle changes to the length of my vocal tract because it could be changing how long is the shortest path. If I block the shortest path, now the shortest path is longer than it was before, and I've lengthened the vocal tract. Okay, so real easy. A area of interest number 1, right, is basically everything. But it's everything in one dimension. Just how long it is. That's it. But otherwise, it's the everything area of interest, right? Moving on to area of interest number 2. And you'll see in a second why you're like, why is he showing me these things on pink trombone? And why did we get rid of area of interest number 1? Well, we won't really be able to change the area of interest number 1 on pink trombone, which that's the actual name of this. I didn't name this, so don't be mad at me. But area of interest number 2, that's right there. It's the end of the vocal tract. Area of interest number 3, and if you think you did the whole thing, now you're at the end, right? And then now we're kind of like we're going in a circle this way. So we get to area of interest number 3, and that's this area at the beginning of the vocal tract. But both of these, if you were paying attention before, both of these put together take up the whole vocal tract. So 3 goes like all the way to, I don't know, I guess here, right? So 3 is all of this, and 2 is all of this. But the thing is, right here in the middle is the weakest action for both of these. And then as you work your way back to the beginning, this is the strongest action for area of interest number 3. And then this is the strongest action for area of interest number 2. So that's the reasoning for putting the number 3 over here and the number 2 over here. Because especially if you're doing things at the end of the vocal tract, and especially if you're doing things at the beginning of the vocal tract, you're having a big effect on these areas of interest. Areas of interest number 3, number 1, number 3, and number 2. There's probably a better way to write that. Probably if I go number 1, number 2, and number 3. That would be more intuitive for people for some reason. So area of interest number 1, 2, and number 3 give you the first resonance of the vocal tract. It's a little bit interesting how that happens. And maybe you could, maybe it would make more sense to say AOI number 1, right? Something like times AOI 3 plus AOI 2 equals F1. Right? But it's ridiculous. It's not, we're not doing real math here. But okay. And in any case, that's how you get the first resonance of your vocal tract, and you can check that out on pink trombone here. If you have number 2 and number 3, and we turn on the sound. And you obviously you can do this on pink trombone, but the idea is I want you to be, thinking about experimenting with this yourself and learning, as a result, learning perturbation theory. Not in a way that will help you pass the test, because who cares, but in a way that will help you, make your own vocal exercises and come up with weird vowels that nobody's ever used. Weird in the sense that, using weird positions or something. Anyway. So we're paying attention to the first resonance of the vocal tract, which is basically all of them. Because everything is going to be affected by this, because every resonance of the vocal tract shares an area of interest that involves the end of the vocal tract, the mouth, let's say, the very end of the tube and the very beginning of the tube. They're all going to have that, right? So we're going to be raising and lowering everything. But what I want you to pay attention to is that when I squeeze this, when I make this smaller, area of interest number 2, according to our theory, ought to darken things, ought to make things go down, ought to lower. And when we squeeze area of interest number 3, that ought to make things go up. You can think like, like a megaphone. A megaphone would be narrow at this end, at the area of interest number 3, and then it just gets wider and wider and wider until you get to area of interest number 2. And I hope that's starting to tell you some things intuitively, etc. So I'm going to tweak area of interest number 2 by constricting it. Okay, now I'm going to tweak area of interest number 3. Okay, so if you get too close to the wall, then it starts doing saliva things. So that's, of course, that's not the idea, and this is just a simple demo. And there's something like our knurtle sound. Okay. So a knurdle sound, well, let me, shall we say, is tweaking this area of interest number 3, but not that close to area of interest number 3, kind of like in the weaker half of area of interest number 3. Hope that makes sense. And now let's take a quick look at area of interest number 4 and number 5. Now what we're concerned with is the second formant. And our second formant is going to be let's do it this way again. It's going to be increase this here. It's going to be area of interest number 1 and that's going to be times areas of interest 2, 3, 4, and 5. It's going to be, I guess, more like, shit. Fuck. It's going to be more like 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5. And along the way, you're adding what it is that they do. And let's assume again that we're constricting. So assuming that we're constricting, and if you're expanding, it's just the opposite, if you're guessing. So if we're constricting, well, just like before now, and so we're going to include 2. If we're constricting, let's just put it here. So from 2, that's still going to lower things. And if we're constricting from 3, that's still going to raise things. Now we've got 1/3 of the way from 3 to 2 is going to be area of interest number 4. And then another third of the way is going to be 5. Well, this is going to be the center of area of interest number 5. These don't work quite like areas of interest number 3 and 2 because they have a center. So you get stronger as you approach number 4, you get more effect, and weaker as you get away from it. But it's not covering us all the way to area of interest number 3. It's covering half as much distance. So we could say, I don't know, area of interest number 4 is going to be like from there to there. And then we could say that area of interest number 5 is going to be from there about to there. And I mean, yeah, it's not totally precise. When you constrict in area of interest number 4, that's going to lower things. And when you let's put this maybe in like a different color. Okay. Different color coming up. Jeez. When we constrict things in area of interest, I was hoping to get different colors. Oh, I'm still in the eraser, that's why. Okay, there we go. When we constrict in here, area of interest number 4, we are going to lower things. And then when we constrict in area of interest number 5, we are going to raise things. To be a little bit OCD here. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Let me see if anyone's helps to know if people are with me here. All right. Well, no questions in the chat, it seems, so I'm going to assume everyone is understanding so far and or does not care. So incursions into area of interest number 4 have a darkening effect. But incursions into area of interest number 3 have this brightening effect. And okay, so maybe you can argue about if that's really brightening or darkening, but when I should say, more strictly, raising and lowering of resonance. Okay. And if I retract things, whatever they are, tongue, popsicle sticks, surgical implants, shards of glass that are perfectly arranged, I don't know, some kind of prosthesis, whatever it is, if you put it in this area of interest, let's say area of interest number 3, and you wind up making a constriction, and especially you wind up making this kind of like funnel shape, you make the whole vocal tract potentially stronger. You're gonna get an effect that increases ring, and this Carrie Obert lady that was referred to will tell you probably that this is what she's talking about is ring. I think this is a lot less ring than if you pull your tongue closer to area of interest number 3. Let me demonstrate. Towards, if I split if I really pull it into area of interest number 4. I can get an ooh out of this. Ooh. It's not really an ooh. And if because you can see, I'm like, right, and everybody knows, ooh is like this. Ooh. The way I do that ooh is by pulling the tongue really, really, really into right in the middle of area of interest number 4. It's really lowering that second formant, pushing my first formant and second formant together, which makes you hear something like ooh. It's not as convincing maybe as ooh, but now we're talking about it, right? If I was just sneaking that into an aria, you're not gonna know that I'm not really singing ooh, unless you're a singing geek. If I retract, so that's retraction into of something, anything, incursion, constriction of area of interest number 4, right down the middle. If I instead retract into area of interest number 3, well, it doesn't even need to be instead, but let's say I was here, and I went, ooh, now I'm going to go, and I'm going to retract things into area of interest number 3 instead. Okay, now that makes the room ring. So is that ring? I don't know. I think that's what people meant, and they didn't mean when they came up with the idea of ring, the term ring. Maybe they did. I don't know. Something that splits the difference. So if I start to not pull the tongue, shall we say, pull anything into area close to area of interest number 3, not making that narrow, but instead start to think, let's see where the border between 3 and 4 is. What if I aim for there with like really the base of my tongue, like the bone at the top of my hyoid bone, even of my larynx, even this little bone. You know, if you can go in my other live streams if you're curious about that. But anyway, so if I go now, if I start to split the difference, well, now I have well, that's interesting. So this starts to have something like wow, it's something like the effect of that. The reinforcement, the ring, I guess. It's something not like that as well. It doesn't seem to be able to make a metallic sound, but it does seem to give me some ring, some reinforcement. So it is a way to make some kind of ring, I guess. And I found a cool thing, which is that basically there are 2 types. Let's make this big here. That basically there seem to be 2 main ways to get ring. There's the ways that are fungible, in the sense that if we're looking at this diagram that I made, with the areas of interest, well, on here, you've got these up and down arrows, right? So essentially, you're doing addition, and then at the end of everything, you're coming up with a certain number. Let's say that for number 3, you're adding +5, and number 4, you're adding -5. Number 5, you're adding +5, and then number 2, you're adding -5. When you get to the other end, you're at 0 again. That's the number. You just really simply add everything up. That's the number you get. That means, as far as getting F1, your first formant and your second formant to the right number, that's fungible, as in non-fungible tokens, except the opposite. Well, remember, so non-fungible tokens, the idea is, even though it's just a JPEG that actually is completely fungible, and what is that? That we're going to pretend it's not fungible. So that whole thing died, but everyone realizes they wasted their money now. But, and had that ready to go for all you NFT buyers who, but I mean, we could still do the NFT for the laryngocentric anatomical research and reference interface if you want. But anyway, so as far as as far as tuning your formants goes, that effect is fungible, which means any contribution from any part of your vocal tract can be exchanged for any other contribution from any other part of your vocal tract. It doesn't matter. If your only goal is really to get the second formant at a particular value to a particular frequency, then you've got essentially 5 ways to do it, and it doesn't matter which you used or what combination of which you used. That may not be your only goal. That's the thing. But then, what does that mean if, even though these values, these formant values, are completely fungible, we're not getting the same results no matter how we get them, no matter how we achieve them? And not only that, depending on which coordination we wound up choosing, it seems like, and which pitch we're singing, etc. It seems like the rules are almost arbitrary sometimes, and just changing for no reason, and don't make a whole lot of sense. But we can still learn them. Some of those rules are that there are places where you can get a certain thing done and no other place. You may have noticed that no one is singing really loud with their mouth open. Opening your mouth has an acoustic effect beyond what we're talking about here with tuning our first and second formant, or any formants at all, or any resonant frequency of the vocal tract. When we're talking about the effect of opening the mouth, for instance, we've got a couple of non-fungible reasons or effects that we're after. When you open your mouth more, you have an effect on impedance matching, which is still in the realm of acoustics. And impedance matching, if you're not familiar with it, is about essentially matching how you push on something to how soft or hard that thing is. Think about how hard a sailboat is, and think about how soft the sail that's attached to the boat is. And then think about how soft the wind is. It's really, really helpful if you want to push on a sailboat using the sail to have something like wind, right? And even though your finger is much stronger than the wind, if you just made like a really big version of your finger and tried to use that to push a sailboat by poking the sail, it wouldn't work very well. You'd have trouble transferring the energy. Why is that? Because the impedance of your finger, regardless of how big or small it is way higher than the impedance of that sail material. Might not be in reality. I don't know. I've never. Maybe these sails are actually made out of pretty heavy material. I've never actually poked a sail. But you get the idea. And if you were doing it with a toy boat, with just like a little t-shirt for a sail, you'd really be able to demonstrate it well. So you can't get that effect from anywhere else. There's also maybe an arguably true or real or not real effect that when you open your mouth more, if you were using the next non-fungible effect that we're talking about, your audience will perceive it more. Whereas if your mouth is more closed, then you will reduce the effect of the next thing we'll talk about, which is metal. And metal comes from twang, and twang comes from area of interest number 3, unless you're talking to Carrie Obert. And if you're talking to Carrie Obert, who I guess made the source material that got into our video that we're bullshit inspecting here by Gemma Suguru, if you talk to Carrie, she'll probably tell you that twang comes from somewhere other than area of interest number 3. And that's fine, but I'm going to stick with the definition of twang that comes from Complete Vocal Technique, because I find a lot of their terminology useful. And their version of twang comes from area of interest number 3. They've got imaging and all kinds of studies and stuff to back it up, and yeah, it works. And then it works also intuitively if you make a little model for yourself, and it explains a lot, and it's intuitive. And frankly, I think someone who's not understanding how this works is and who's working in speech pathology or science or something is maybe trying not to understand, or perhaps just incredibly dense, but I doubt it. Nobody's that dense anyway. So this twang comes from area of interest number 3, and it comes whenever you start to narrow area of interest number 3. As long as you're really close to that number 3 there, to the beginning of the vocal tract. If you start to make your constriction of area of interest number 3 overlap with area of interest number 4, of course you're also going to hear this darkening effect at the same time. Now I don't know if yeah, I guess all right, now I guess you can have kind of both, right? But if I twang and then also pull my tongue back to area of interest number 4, it doesn't really canoodle. It makes more like I've heard this before in a lot of in some tenors, but I can't place it where I know this sound from that I just did. But because area of interest number 3 is narrowed closer to the base, the fact that I'm also pulling the tongue into closer to where you see the border of area of interest number 4 there, yes, it does still wind up darkening, so lowering it still makes that non-fungible effect, right? But we're not getting the effect of having our space close to area of interest number 3 while having space higher up than that narrowed, which seems to make this canoodle thing. So that's what I think it is. I think what makes this sound from Shakira is kind of wedging some stuff back between number 3 and number 4 there, and kind of getting around the border of where I have area of interest number 4 covered there. I guess the posterior border of the area of interest number 4. That's my take on what it is that we're talking about. It seems to have some acoustic effect. It seems to also be involved with getting some density in the vocal folds. But anyway, these effects that happen only in one particular place are the ones I call non-fungible effects. They're non-fungible because you can only do them there. You can only make twang that we're talking about, not the twang that someone like Carrie Obert might be talking about. But who knows? I don't know. We're not really getting citation here. So we can't make that anywhere except for area of interest number 3. We can remove area of interest number 3 by raising the larynx. But we can't make twang anywhere else. And we can't make metal anywhere else. And we can't make this knurdle. It's also non-fungible. It can't be made anywhere but between the area of interest number 3 and number 4. Although you can simply expand area of interest number 5 a lot to get the darkening effect that you would from retracting the tongue into area of interest number 4. It never makes a knurdle. No one makes a knurdle by accidentally opening their mouth too much. It doesn't work that way. And yeah. And, I was able, I did program that. Just want you guys to see that I have that. Okay. Anyway. So, onwards.
That retraction is happening. So let's check out Renee Fleming singing Casta Diva. And I want you to look at her tongue. Watch her tongue and notice when it is retracted and notice when it is retracted.
So throw down. She's going to be now accusing one of our own of knurdling. So, Gemma, you better be careful here. You better be right. I better see some knurdle.
And notice when it isn't retracted.
Oh.
Notice?
Oh.
Can we see it here?
I don't. No. No, I can't. But I can hear it. But no, I can't see it. Let's look. Let's make it bigger. Oh, what have I done? What have I done? I need to take this away. 1 second, guys. Oop. Yeah. There we go. I see head protraction at the moment, which is super important, I think. But head protraction.
So there's a so the tip is forward, but the dorsum is up and the root of the tongue is back.
Yeah, Gemma.
See it?
That's why we can't see. You just told us. Sometimes you get the impression that some people lie a lot. And they wind up lying even when it's not necessary. And then, anyway, it's totally unnecessary to tell us that we saw it. We didn't see it. But her explanation of why we didn't see it is correct. She tells us that we saw it, and then she explains to us why we didn't. But let's read. Okay, in this clip you can see Renee's tongue. Notice how it flattens more and moves forward when she gets to her higher notes, and returns back when she descends again. This is necessary as her larynx needs room to rise, so the backing of the tongue root as a strategy needs to be abandoned when singing very high pitches. Backing of the tongue root into what? So, what is it? Into what? So, let me explain. The tongue is rooted in a couple of things. One is the base proper of the tongue, which nobody seems interested in, is in your jaw. It's in your mandible, in this submandibular region. And I gotta watch the clock because I need to get some groceries, I think. But more back from there is this hyoid bone that sits on top of your larynx. And your larynx can move a little bit away from there, but not really. So this is all going to be, think of it as one thing. So when your larynx goes up, your tongue goes up, and when your larynx goes down, your tongue goes down. It has to, because the root, the base of your tongue, right, is already the beginning of your larynx. It's the same place. It can't. Yeah. Anyway. And you can certainly continue to twang. You can certainly let the larynx rise. Not that I'm saying you should or shouldn't. You can let the larynx rise while continuing to constrict or narrow, whatever you want to say, area of interest number 3, and make twang or a metallic sound. Let's see. This is the bone that we're talking about here. Is, see where it says body? Well, I'll move my. See, I'll just move myself around here. So I'll move my. Where did I go? Whoop. Sorry, guys. Okay. Boop. And I'll just make myself smaller. Yeah, this is great. I am the pointer. So this little thing, that's the hyoid bone. And then this thing here, I believe that I'm on here, is the epiglottis. Okay? So as far as I know, we're talking about this thing, the hyoid bone. And when your larynx is going up, this is going up already. And your tongue's going with it. Right? But it's no problem for the tongue to stretch from, well, first of all, it's no problem for your tongue to be low. It's just, I don't understand why the tongue backing needs to be abandoned. And it often isn't abandoned. There's often no larynx rising. In case, geez. No, guys, I'm sorry. I thought I have this projector here, so I didn't realize you guys can't see what I was pointing to. Let me see. Oh, one more time, guys. Sorry. Like this so I can see. I'm sorry, guys. That was terrible. Terrible of me. I was watching a different live stream. Okay. So here we go. I made myself into a pointer. Whoop. So down here, that, I believe, is the hyoid bone. This is the bone that's right on top of your larynx. If you follow your thyroid cartilage, right on top of that, your hyoid. When that's rising, your tongue might be rising, your tongue might be stretching, your tongue might be just staying with it. It really depends on what it is that you're trying to do. You might be singing high notes with a high larynx, you might be singing high notes with a low larynx, and you might be using twang whether you're singing high or whether you're singing low. And in case you're a speech pathologist and you're wondering about this, you may see people losing their knurtle if they raise their larynx, because as I was just showing you, in order to get that knurtle, you're going to have to be between area of interest number 3 and number 4. Now think about what happens if you raise your larynx. How are you going to do that? Anyway, there's not enough room. There's no room to maneuver, and your tongue is too fat and big to do that. So if you want to make the knurtle, it helps to make some vocal tract length. And that's why whenever you see me doing Kermit the Frog, you're going to see me do this. You're going to see me make vocal tract length like this because I want to be able to articulate and change my vocal tract length a little bit without having it get too short, because I need some length so that I can get really between area of interest number 3 and number 4. Jeez, that's exhausting. So Kermit the Frog, that sound, which they're having trouble with on this live stream, is related to what she's saying.
The root of the tongue is back.
It just doesn't work like what they're telling us. So let's take a look again.
Yes. And still back.
Make myself bigger.
Now it's changed. See how it's flattened now? She definitely, because it went a lot higher, that particular...
Look, there's plenty of people singing that with a low larynx. The question is, did Renee Fleming sing it with a low larynx? And it doesn't appear that she did. It does appear that she raised her larynx. And also that it appears that Renee Fleming was getting a lot of her ring using this kind of this knurl technique. And it's kind of neat. By the way, if you're here in the live chat and you type commands, this is supposed to do something. I guess not. We're supposed to have this bot, guys. I was trying to improve the stream, so I'm gonna see if I can. See if I can get this to work here. So open this link in a new tab. The commands. Oh, I see. So, I guess that's not doing as much as I thought it would. Anyway. Get something? Ah, yeah. It worked. Okay. So, and and so if you go on that link there, there's different things that you can do. Let's see. Default commands. So I could do like show the title here. There we go. Yeah. Anyway, so the explanation I would give for these changes of tongue position are, one, to get the different vowels, you may need to do tweakings of different areas of interest. And depending on some perhaps non-fungible thing that you're doing, you're going to see variability in those things which are left over. And those especially are going to be like your formant tunings. The way you get your vowel, for instance, often it doesn't matter if you opened your mouth or lifted your tongue or lowered your tongue or retracted your tongue or used a little bit more twang or did whatever to get your vowel. Nobody cares. If it wasn't really affecting the overall sound, it's just nice that it made it sound like that vowel. And oftentimes that's all you need to make something sound like a vowel is just the right formant tuning. Those are fungible. Things like twang are not. If you start talking about both at the same time, which people like this always are, voice teachers and such, it's extremely confusing. So that's why I recommend these areas of interest and thinking about things that way. Because then, when you refer to area of interest number 3, that's going to come with all the things you know about area of interest number 3 that are significant. It's not just, random. Have some more water. See what else she's got to say here.
Work anymore, so she adapted more to potentially having more twang in the sound. There's still that element of the warmth in the ringtone, I think.
I don't hear a
I think
lot of twang in her sound.
Still occupying some space in the throat space.
Oh, I guess so, yeah.
Oh, stunning! Oh my god. So what's the tongue
Stunning.
position?
Oh,
Well,
just so
the tip
stunning.
of the tongue
Oh my god.
is
Stunning.
towards the front. The dorsum, which is the middle of the tongue or the hump of the tongue, is high.
Dorsum is the blade of
and
the tongue.
Then the root, like imagine your tongue is kind of taking up the space of your fist in your mouth, basically, and even some of my wrist, because the tongue root goes all the way down to the larynx into the throat.
We're gonna have
space.
to do some Ken
So,
Hub.
The middle of the tongue is humped up, the tip is forward, and the root is actually moving back. I know that sounds like a bad thing, like what the hell?
Back where? That's what I hate about this. Back where? Now this is, I think, area of interest number 4, or is it anyway? So I think it's bullshit, because back where and why and for what,
Tongue tension.
And how is the root doing this? The root's attached to the hyoid bone. This dorsum can go really far. I don't know. These Yeah. If this stuff confuses you the way that it's put, I think it's because it should. I don't know. I hope these areas of interest thing helps sort out, or at least give you the idea that it's not enough to think of back where, there's 2 terms, I guess, that we're hitting tonight. One is this non-fungible versus fungible gestures. It's good to know, that opening your mouth can't be done in the back of your throat. And that, making twang with area of interest number 3 can't be done with area of interest number 4. It doesn't work. You get knurtle. It helps to know that. The other concept, I think, though, is that everything's got an acoustic address, not just a physical address. When you start talking about back, there's like every position. No, we have position and motion, right? Ooh. And these are so important. I have them ready in these cool things. And then there's also attitude. Right now we're going to talk about position. Every position of everything in your vocal tract, and then by extension, every motion has, yes, an anatomical address, like she's using, the dorsum, the root of the tongue, etc., right? But it also has an acoustic address. area of interest number 3. Or let's say halfway from area of interest number 3 to area of interest number 4. Okay, it's not the most precise address, but it's still an address. And if I change the shape of the vocal tract by making it shorter or longer, you can still find that same address. You might even just think about it and go, wait a minute, how am I going to make a knurtle if the vocal tract is short? So then how is Renee Fleming going to make a knurtle if she shortens her vocal tract? And then, so of course when she goes high, if she's raising her larynx as well, she's not going to have the knurtle anymore. Position, let's see, motion and attitude. And when it comes to your position and when it comes to your motion of your tongue, whatever part of the tongue you're talking about, etc., and you're just thinking about back, I don't know. I think inevitably it's going to wind up being back from somewhere. It's going to be like back from where your eyes are. Or maybe that's why people are talking about singing in the mask. Maybe that's why that helps. If you're singing in the mask, place your voice in your mask, and now I say retract your tongue, well, it's at least now you have some kind of sense of direction for something that, at least relative to where you're doing what. You may not be aware of it, but you're thinking back from somewhere, and that's wherever you think your mask is. I don't know. I suggest these areas of interest. Use the mask thing if you want, whatever, or use whatever system you want. But what I'm saying is you should have an acoustic area of interest or an acoustic address for the things that are going on, not just back, up, down. Don't pull your tongue sideways. Diagonal.
Space in my throat. I don't want to have a closed throat feeling. It can get excessive.
I had a teacher who used to say, make columns. Column, he would say. Make columns in the back. And the back of what? It was just...
No. You would want to make sure that you do have a very well innervated tongue, like your tongue has a lot of mapping in terms of your nerve endings, like you can find your tongue. Like some people can't feel their tongue enough, and I actually ask those singers.
I don't even know. This is
to use like tongue scrapers.
It's like
in the morning to wake up their tongues. Your tongue is so important when it comes to singing. You've no idea. It is like the most important part of the whole system. But anyway, that's for another video. What's happening when you put your tongue into that position, you end up boosting certain frequencies. To be specific, it's about like 1,000, 1,400 up to 3,000 hertz. They're really brilliant frequencies.
Guys, look, I'm not saying like don't knurtle if you want to, if you like the knurtle, but now we're finding some way that it's a good idea because it happens to give you a little bit of a boost in this area. It's not the only thing that makes a boost in this area, and there's a lot of things you can do that make a boost in this area that you may or may not want to use in your singing. It's just not that relevant. Whether or not you're going to have a boost in the 2,500 to 3,500 area. By the time you have a set of vocal coordinations that you're actually happy with, that's not an issue. And There's plenty of sounds. I'm sure that all of you who are watching this and trying to get better at singing or whatever, there's plenty of sounds you can make that have a boost in this area that may not interest you. And I think Knödel, in many cases, is one of them. And I don't care how many degrees you have or what kind of speech therapist you are or how famous you are or whatever. It's kind of absurd to be claiming that this is twang. It's just not. And yeah, and just there are some examples of artists using it. Like, is this the best way to get the most out of your voice? I don't think I could say that. I can't say that this is a strategy that I see people using extremely successfully more often than not. I see exceptions like Renee Fleming, who is just so fantastic.
Be boosting. They move two of your resonances closer together, which means you have more of an opportunity to catch the resonance and to catch the power and catch that energy boost. And what's like resonance boost, energy boost?
It's just, I'm sure like whatever talk that she was watching, they said something that makes sense. But this is just like David Jones style word salad. About I don't know what she was picturing. Like, it's catching a bus. It's easier to catch it because it's close to. I don't know.
That's basically free energy, free resonance, free volume, free power for your voice. Meaning that
now we have perpetual motion machine. Oh God. It's like the Rake's Progress.
the muscles in the neck and the throat, in the larynx don't have to work as hard. The breath doesn't have to work as hard. The vocal folds just start like blowing in the wind like a flag if you can get the resonance right. And I bet you have experienced
Blowing in the wind like a flag.
or when you've been singing where you're like, oh my God, that note, I could just sing that note for days. What happened there? That's when you hit the resonance sweet spot. And this is one way
resonance
you can
sweet
start getting
spot.
that resonance sweet spot. The
I've hit the resonance sweet spot.
reason
Okay, so that's, I mean, it's just bullshit. Yeah, okay. If you're combining certain of the non-fungible effects that I've been talking about, and also maybe fungible effects, so you can create non-linear relationships between the vocal tract and the vocal folds, which results in a feedback loop that can make it seem as if you're getting energy for free, but you're never getting energy for free. There's no such thing as perpetual motion, and all of that is your effort at some point. And every filter, no matter how good it is only ever taking energy away from the total and then putting it out the other side. So there is energy being lost as heat going into the tissues of your vocal tract from all of this stuff that we're doing. It just happens that the stuff that we're doing is happening like 440 times a second if we're singing a high A for a tenor. 444 times, it's 440 times a second, and each one is getting efficient, making a feedback loop, and et cetera. Pretty soon you've got something really powerful. Hi to Bear and welcome. We're looking at Knödel tonight, and we've got the opera singers coming right up. So
is that it really helps me access a particular mix quality that I'm looking for around my G4 to, whoa, sorry about that, around my G4 to my D5. That little transition spot for me can be a bit ropey, and this particular resonance strategy
I hope I don't have to sing a
smooths it out
D5.
for me like
Let's see.
a dream. So next, let's do an exercise. So we're going to start
well,
here.
she's not going to sing one. I'm not going to sing
Again,
one.
where we get that Kermit the Frog reference, or you can do that like
Okay.
silly Shakira impression
Kermit
where you're
the Frog.
exaggerating it. Or you're doing your Kermit the Frog. Or you can do like
Kermit Kermit the Frog. Kermit the Frog. No, there's something really missing in her Kermit the Frog. I don't know where I was. I just imitated that until I got it. But Kermit the Frog. She's more like this. I think she's more like. You know what? She's a lot more like Marilyn Monroe that we're gonna see in a bit. So
an sound with it, and imagine that I'm imitating a can of Coke opening, going, and I can feel that tongue position. Once you have that, you're going to try this for me. You're going to say the word weird.
Okay.
Weird. Remember, your E vowel is actually created in the throat space.
Weird.
Space in the throat space. Now, of course, there's some resonance happening in the throat space, but for your E vowel to sound.
I heard that. Okay, just one more time. All resonance, all of it, everything that's going on, everything is the whole vocal tract. So even though I show you these areas of interest and it looks like it's all chopped up. Remember when we looked at the first and second resonance? Every time we were taking the whole vocal tract in order to arrive at those numbers. That's how the physics actually works. That's perturbation theory. And that's how you would so if we open vocal tract lab, checking if you guys want, if you're in the chat, I can open it for you and we can take a look at how vocal tract lab works, although it's getting a bit late. But when it's calculating what are the formants going to be when it's going to synthesize or simulate the vocal tract, it's using perturbation theory, not these ideas about resonance being in the mouth, like one kind of resonance being in the mouth and another in the throat. That's like complete bullshit. It's just, what are you on? It obviously doesn't work that way. And that's why people say these, it's like ridiculous things. Like you start believing it, now your brain has to adjust the rest of reality to your absurd belief about the vocal tract. Next thing you know, you believe in the flat earth or whatever.
E vowel is actually created in the throat space, not in the mouth space, in the throat space. Now, of course, there's some resonance happening in the mouth space, but for your E vowel to sound like an E vowel, all you need is the shape in your throat. You don't need to do anything with your lips. So think about that. The E then is moving to the R. We're. And you're hanging out on that ear. Now, on any pitch, kind of practice it like you're being an alien.
I don't know what she means. Sorry. Okay, if you want to make an E sound, we're gonna need to have the second formant really high, the first formant low, so that they're far apart from each other. That's how that works. That's how the sound E works. Okay. If we go back to those areas of interest that I was showing you earlier, look at what we can do with them. We can raise by making room in area of interest number 4. We can raise by crowding or constricting or narrowing area of interest number 5. That's how you're going to do that. You could also raise by shortening the whole vocal tract. She appears to be doing a combination of those things, right? But there's no making the vowel in your throat or making the vowel in your mouth. Whatever it is you did, I realize you may have focused on one part or another part of your vocal tract, right? That doesn't mean that that's where things happened. That's your imagination. That's we're not that quantum. that just because you imagined, you placed some resonance somewhere and it appears as if that resonance changes when you change that space, that doesn't mean that that's how that works. It doesn't work like she says. But it does work using these areas of interest, or not really these areas of interest, but it works using perturbation theory.
Do you hear those little overtones I'm moving through? That means we're really sweeping through that little harmonic spectrum and pulling out all of those harmonics and getting them boosted. Oh my god, I'm so excited.
You're pulling out all the bullshit and getting that boosted. It's like...
Dovrebbe un cantante servirsi della voce di petto? No.
Oh god. That is some word salad there. And then that, it's like when I watch something like this, I'm like, oh, this nice looking woman is like just living on lies. Because that's a classic word salad. Let's go back and break it down. This is...
Do you hear those little overtones I'm moving through? That means we're really sweeping through that little harmonic spectrum.
I'll show off my tone scales. By the way, I do use overtone scales sometimes, but actually what I like to use them for these days, and I also have some kind of bullshit that's still up maybe on YouTube. I don't know, maybe I took those videos down because I got corrected so hard. I could do bullshit inspector on my own old videos using overtones, but what I like to use overtone scales to do is demonstrate this concept of the fungible vocal gestures. Because if you do your overtone scales a certain way, you can get the same scale with two completely different movements and with different shapes. But it's the same scale. So, example number 1. Hope you can hear that. No sound. Oh, geez. Tiber, still no sound? Can you hear me? Well, how can there be no sound? I have sound on my end. Mm-hmm.
Was it low overtones I'm moving through? That means we're really sweeping through
Are you getting
that
no sound?
Harmonic spectrum and pulling out all of the...
Oh, you mean no sound in the overtone scales? See. Ooh, oh, I know what that is. I know what it is. So 1 second. Let me take a look at this. I have like a background noise filter, I think. And I think it thought I was a machine. Let's see. Yeah. So it's this. Should be this. Let's see. Okay, you made me panic. I thought I was like maybe doing a whole live stream with no sound. If I can go back. Okay, now let me know if you hear this. Is there sound now? I just did a wicked overtone scale, dude. And I'll okay, yeah, so it was the okay, yeah, it was this noise removal. Probably thought I was a vacuum cleaner or something. And I should have bullshit inspector up here. Okay. So if I did that using pretty much just motion in and thanks, by the way, to Bear. That's extremely helpful. And hey, welcome, Jay Irving. I'll get to your question in just a second. So I made that overtone scale by manipulating, let's say, areas of interest number 4 and number 5. My tongue, the dorsum of my tongue, started out really narrowing area of interest number 4, and then I slide it forward towards area of interest number 5, so that it's like eventually it's departing area of interest number 4 and starting to narrow area of interest number 5, both of which raise the second formant. And then when I slide it back, it's doing two things at once that lower the second formant. So I'm able to really precisely control the tuning of the second formant. Meanwhile, my lips don't really move. My lips are controlling area of interest number 2. But now what would happen if I said, okay, I'm going to keep my tongue much more still, and I'm going to keep area of interest number 4 basically open, or much more open, and I'm going to see if I can use area of interest number 1, not because I care about the first resonance of the vocal tract, but because I'm going to use it to precisely tune the second resonance of the vocal tract. Because even though my tongue can control it, if I were to use my tongue to adjust to length change, I could make the chief driver, or the chief thing changing the second formant of my vocal tract, not the tongue, but the mouth, the opening of the mouth. The whole thing can happen from a completely different place, because all I'm doing is adding up the results of each area of interest. You add them up together, you get a certain number, and there you go. That's your overtone, but it's not really an overtone. It's a formant. That's technical, though. It's a resonant frequency of the vocal tract. So, instead of I can go and sorry, that was more area of interest number 2 combined with area of interest number 5. So the end of the vocal tract and then 2/3. And then I could try more with the mouth. And now the mouth is playing, or the lips rather, are playing a really big role, because changing that value from the lips or changing it from my tongue is the same. But you'll notice maybe that the movement of my mouth had effects like changing the ring of the voice that you didn't hear from moving the tongue. And you may, if you were really, really, listening closely, you can notice that some of the resonances I'm trying to mute were also moving up and down along with the second formant, in ways that they weren't when I was mostly using my tongue to do it. I'm going to get to your question now, Jay Irving. So Jay asked a really awesome question, and let's see if I can put that up there. So there's the question. He says, one thing that confuses me is that a darker, bigger, more open sound seems to work better with the tongue retraction, as the twang generated by narrowing in the pharynx seems to constrict the space. And that's absolutely correct. The only thing is that it shouldn't be confusing, because unless you've been told that that the pharynx needs to be open because it's crucial for this or that, or because it's a separate resonating space that always needs to be open, and you never have any reason to think that. And a lot of vocal coordinations that have a really open pharynx, you just change vowels, and now that same way of doing things has a really constricted pharynx. If we mean area of interest number 4, and let me just, I guess I should, I'll bring it back up again, because it's maybe just worth, constantly bringing this thing back up. So if we bring the whiteboard back up, let's see if I can, So our area of interest number 3 there, if that's what you mean by pharynx, retracting your tongue into there, as far as all formants, all resonant frequencies of the vocal tract are concerned, has the opposite effect. That's raising everything. And then number 4 is lowering everything. Or not lowering everything, is lowering just the second formant. Now it's going to be, you're going to be interacting with other higher resonant frequencies whenever you're in there. Fine. We're not concerned with them right now. When you're raising things with area of interest number 3, you may also be lowering them with area of interest number 4, but that's probably going to wind up just being a function of what vowel you're making. There is one more wrinkle, which is that one of the ways we boost the sound in classical singing has nothing to do with this, with these non-fungible effects. It has nothing to do with opening the mouth and nothing to do with twang. It's nothing to do with that at all. It just has to do with these overtone scales I was just singing for you. If you're able to set the second resonance of your voice to the third harmonic, when you get above F4, and then if you're a little bit lower, like D4, E flat 4 in there, if you're able to probably, I think it works like this, set the second resonance of your vocal tract to the fourth harmonics, or something like that. There's a couple of these couplings that you can do that will get you a boost, more like ring in the sound. And this ring in the sound works like what these people are telling us, where it's just the resonance. It's never just the resonance. for instance, this stuff with using area of interest number 3, you can't just make the shape. You also have to push hard enough into the shape to make it go. But assuming you're pushing hard enough into the shape, okay, you're going to get this metallic sound. But when it comes to this F2H3 coupling, these formant harmonic couplings, it's just a matter of tuning. It comes from formant tuning, it comes from fungible effects, and then it doesn't matter how you got it. So then that's another reason that someone might be retracting their tongue and getting a huge sound. They may be retracting their tongue in a way that maybe actually is otherwise making the sound more quiet. But because they're winding up with the particular tuning that they get in their timbre, then it's actually boosting the sound. So
those harmonics and getting them boosted. Oh my god, it's so exciting. Can I show you what it looks like on Voce Vista? So Voce Vista is like a visualizer for the voice. So have a look at what my voice looks like when I sing weir. So I want you watching from about 1500 hertz up to about 3000 hertz and see what happens when I do weir. Weir.
No, let's see this on the... Let's get rid of this whiteboard here. Ah!
How cool! So we have this pure sweep up and down through all of these magic frequencies that we want to boost in the sound to give us more
actually,
power.
It looks to me like she still has the boost in between them. She's just got her settings so that you're not seeing that it's still there. It's getting stronger as she's progressing through her scale. She's also getting louder. And it just I don't know, like if you're watching, like do you buy this as an experiment that shows that is a really powerful sound? Because it doesn't. Okay.
And you know, we're going to be able to catch a ride on one of these frequencies by sweeping through them, right? So just really increasing our chances of hitting the sweet spot in our voice. So now let me share.
And then you stay there. Then you got to stay there in that sweet spot.
Can't run from myself. There's nowhere to hide. Don't make me close one more door. Okay. You can hear the it's a bit too heavy at the bottom. It gets a bit too thin at the top, right? So now I'm going to practice. Weir, 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 weir.
Uh-huh.
Weir, 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 weir. I'm really getting somewhere now at the top. Weir, 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 weir. I like that a lot. Weir, 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 weir.
So she's doing one thing, she's doing another thing, and then she's saying, okay, that was great. But I don't understand, because she's not then using that sound again in the... I think the idea is like you do it and then it confers you something on you. Now you have... Since you had a knurdle, you're nice and full.
There's nowhere to hide. Well, don't make me close one more door. Isn't it so much better?
No. And I don't really hear that much knurdle. We can go back, but the Shakira thing is not in this sound, really. So I'm not sure that's totally accurate.
It
Let's move
just
on. Let's hear some of
feels-
that. Let's just hear some of it. Okay, now the king of this sound, I think, in opera is Nikolai Gede. Nikolai Gede. What was this again? Wait, I have to see what this hotkey does.
It's a fake.
He's not a fake. He's not a fake. But if retracting your tongue is artificial darkness, like the guy was saying in the video that I saw, if it's artificial darkness for some reason, then this guy is extremely artificial. Except I don't know, he's got a lot of fans. My history with Nikolai Gede is that I was crazy about him and then I fell out of love with him. I'm still out of love with him. But this is a very good example of this knurtle thing. So let's hear a bit. And I'm going to make this small because I want to be able to fight the copyright. You can even have like maybe some do very slight. Just give it a little bit of motion. It's like the screen is breathing, you know? Let me know if that bugs you.
I'm just
Kidding. Just So, I think as far as like, is this that sound? Then yeah. Salut demeure shasti, demeure shasti pure. And also seems to follow this rule. When you start to go higher, then you want to take it out. Take out some of the knurtle, maybe, or it may be more vowel based. I would guess if we're like, what is his larynx doing? He's probably, and his hyoid bone, I'm guessing it's not stabilized, that it's going to be more just moving around and like floating. I used to give names to three kind of collections of coordinations. One called S track, the styloid track. The other one called L track, more labial track, I guess. And one called G track. And I relate those now. I relate now more to edge and overdrive from Complete Vocal Technique. And I just tend to talk about some postural considerations that you might use for fuller density singing, and talk about maybe there's like a fork in the road when it comes to articulation, and you can go one way or the other. I might talk that way. But I used to have this thing called G track, and let me stop the. Sorry, I forgot I still had that going. So I used to have this thing called G track, and G track was a way to say these kind of vocal coordinations in classical singing with the larynx more free, less stabilized. And it'll tend to go with smaller mouth positions, or maybe not actually, but tends to go with more colors, a little bit less power. And I tended to hear that people used either a lot of nasality to make it work, to kind of tie everything together, so switching nasality on and off, or using this kind of knurtle. So I would say, and I called this G track for general, I guess, or glottal. And I would put it as like you have the knurtle solution or the nasal solution. And to me, Alfredo Kraus was using the nasal solution, and Nikolai Geta is using the Knödel solution. And this is I don't know. It's very knurdly, and we could say he's almost like he's going almost full Kermit. So if you're I've got it. 1 second, guys. But we might have to do a part 2 on this one, because I think it's like just getting interesting, and it's nice to maybe we'll just pick it up tomorrow. I'll just do a part 2 because this thing I think has too many things inside of it. So I have to confess, like, I've been cheating on the cat, and this thing eats even more expensive food than the cat, and more of it. But so just saying, guys. And also, I don't know if you noticed, but like, see his ears, how good they look. I've been learning how to groom these things. Anyway, so but it needs to eat, and I need to eat, and Lidl is gonna close soon. So guys, I think I'm gonna wrap this up. Does anyone have any pressing Knödel questions, and then I'm just gonna pick this up tomorrow. I promise we'll go straight into Nikolai Geta, because I think we got a good background on what Knödel is. Yeah, so I know what I'll do. I'm gonna make this like a preview for the we did the lecture part of Knödel, the vocal coordination, and tomorrow will be examples. And so we will have 1 second, guys. Here we go. We will have Nikolai Geta singing from Faust. We will have Marilyn Horn doing some horny things. So from Tancredi, right? We will have we will have Peter Pears.
Woman as deceiver, a jilted
I'm not
lover.
sure if you guys are Peter Pears fans. Of course, I have my mixed feelings. I mean, there's the Knödel, but as an example of Knödel, I think he's a good one. About the concept that we're talking about, and then really successful at using it. I guess we could say expressively, like although everyone we're going to be talking about is obviously doing or was doing something right, or they wouldn't be on here. And then Renee Fleming. So, and then we've got some totally non-Knödel, non-classical music to look at, and if we get to it, some really twangy choral music and neutral. I didn't have too much to say about it in the end, but anyway, so that's our preview. I'm back. Yeah, that's the preview for our examples. So you guys have a good night, Jay and Tuber, and join us tomorrow evening. Let's say tomorrow evening will be same time, 7 p.m. and we will look at some examples of knödel. If you have some examples that you're thinking of, you could even sing some knödel for us. But if you have some, let's see, yeah, if you have some examples of some proposed examples of knödel or anything else that you'd want to see covered on the show, or especially if you have any topics I haven't been talking about. I saw today someone warning about fake agencies that take your money, and you think that you're going for an audition for something having to do with opera engagements, and it's all just fake and bullshit. So, like, do you have an experience with one of those? I would really love to hear about it. So I got my email there. You can send me like anything that's on your mind having to do with singing, opera, the business, school, whatever. And you have until tomorrow evening. So anyway, but yeah, I'm off to the store, so have a good night.
The tongue affects your singing a lot.
Suddenly everybody is talking about the tongue.
Where exactly should you place your tongue when you're singing?
I always say that your tongue should be placed in a very natural position.
And is there an ideal tongue position that if you were to use it, you'll become a better singer?
If the color of your voice is attached to the position of your tongue, so if you manipulate your color with the tongue, you are creating a fake color.
It's a fake.
A dark that doesn't really exist.
I created it, and it's real.
You are creating a fake color.
It's a fake.
Actually, if you saw that my tongue is not in a tense state, it's actually in a very relaxed state. In fact, it's pulling even farther away.
Larynx and pharynx open. Gola aperta. Words of Giacomo Lauri Volpi.
Open throat technique.
Arturo Melocchi used to say, tenga la lingua avanti. Keep your tongue forwards. Okay? You can hear it here. Tenga la lingua avanti. Tenga la lingua avanti.
And also because we are singing with a high positioned tongue, the sound that comes out of your air pipe gets reflected on your hard palate on the top and goes directly out.
It should be natural.
I always say that your tongue should be placed in a very natural position.
The important thing is to keep your larynx and pharynx open.
If your tongue is in a low position, the tongue itself will partly be in your throat, in the back of your throat.
I use my tongue so that I can maintain good open throat technique.
Tongue rocks straight back. Here's where the tongue does not go up, but the tongue retracts back.
And what you're going to find is that if the tongue is tensing, you're going to actually see the tongue narrowing.
I always say that your tongue should be placed in a very natural position.
You're tearing me apart!
What?
You say one thing, he says another, and everybody changes back again!